Welcome to the Fat Emperor podcast. I'm your host, Ivor Cummins.
Hey all, back with another podcast, and I'm down here in the south of Ireland in the middle of nowhere, and the technology is not all set up, so we're low tech today. But I'm delighted to have a conversation now with the founder of Wellheart, which operates out of Germany but is international. That's Mark Felstead, and we'll briefly touch on his story, which you may have heard before. And we've also brought along Martin, not Denzel. Maybe Martin, you can correct me.
Genzel, that sounds right.
Genzel, yes, rhymes with Denzel, Washington. So Martin Genzel is a pioneer early member who has gone through the full kind of strategy from Wellheart, which reflects a lot of what I've been saying for around 10 years now, and has had some marked improvement in his blood markers after suffering a mild heart attack less than a year ago. So pretty substantial improvements and feeling a lot better, right, Martin?
Absolutely.
So maybe we'll start, Mark, with just a brief your backstory and Wellheart, give an overview, and then we'll get into Martin's experience, which mirrors many of the other guys.
Yeah, that's right. And thank you, Ivor. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Well, for those who haven't come across me before, basically I was a really fit, sporty guy doing triathlons, duathlons, not smoking, healthy diet. So I thought, not really drinking, no overweight whatsoever, really fit and athletic until one day, almost exactly 3 years ago, during a duathlon competition here locally, quite a strenuous competition. I was doing pretty well in one of the front groups, but I dropped dead 200 meters from the finish with a sudden cardiac arrest, which I had no symptoms previously, was saved by some of my competitors. They started straight away CPR. Luckily, 2 of them were doctors. And long story short, I woke up 10 days later out of an artificial coma with my sister on one side and my wife on the other. And they had gone through hell. And I had slept and woke up and survived. And constantly afterwards was asking the question, why me? Why did it happen to me when I thought I was doing everything right in terms of heart health or general health? And then, as you do a lot of YouTube research, asking the question, I came across you, I think March 2020, and you started talking about insulin resistance, metabolic illness, eat rich, live long, this kind of low carb, high fat diet. And I took it on board. I'm like, wow, this is, despite all the cardiologists, all the processes I've been through since then, this guy is starting to talk about something nobody had talked to me about before. We can talk about the craziness of that, and so I started to follow you, and through various things, we got in touch. And then it just seemed like a really cool idea that I'm not alone in this. I'm sure I'm not the first guy who suffered some kind of surprise heart attack, or as we like to say, without symptoms, asymptomatic, or woman. And so I, with your help and with your support, founded something called We Love Our Heart, wellheart.com, which was basically to sort of spread the word, talk about my story, talk about you, Ivor, other doctors and experts as well, and open up from the patient perspective, the sort of cardiac care, or, find people like me who have had an event or maybe worried about an event and how we can all help each other. And that's very much the story. And then, as you've mentioned, in late or early summer, we started something called the Pioneer Group, where we took a small group of people and really sort of tried to drill down on our blood test results and various other aspects, fitness and health, again, with your support and other supports, to see if we can improve other people the way that it's helped and improved my life, blood test results, quality of life, and all the rest of it.
Excellent summary, Mark, and great leadership there, as I've said many times before, to actually go ahead and do something, create something that will help over time so many people. And I'm delighted to see as well, some of the Pioneer members are hooking up with the likes of my pal, cardiologist Scott Murray, and other people within my kind of network are beginning to get trained in, which is fantastic, because they're as I say, the smartest guys in the room, guys or gals. So Martin, you have done a fantastic spreadsheet which people are using, and you've been tracking all your metrics on each blood test, and it's a super tool. It's got all the right ones on there. So maybe give your overview of how things have gone since you started as a pioneer with Wellheart, and which way the metrics are going and how you feel and how you look and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey from a mild heart attack in February, and then wanting to do more than just listen to my cardiologist and GP, who are fabulous. But I feel as though that they're sort of like the goalkeeper in a game, and they were just sort of stopping the goals. My goal was to prevent the second heart attack, the next one. So I wanted to just do more than just sit there, take tablets, and just hope for the best. I found Mark, funnily enough, through one of your podcasts or videocasts, and learned about the We Love Our Heart and Mark's story, which resonated with me. And therefore, when he said we're starting up this program, was very keen to join in, and was pleased to become one of the pioneers. One of the things that Mark and the We Love Our Heart program focused on, which I think is also aligned with what you do, Ivor, is focus on the measures, focus on data, focus on what you can control, and try and change the dial of those things that you can control, and then see if those results come through. All the while learning a lot. There's sort of a problem-solving element to this. You have to look at the data. You have to see what's specific to you, or to me in this case, and try and take the right actions. What was interesting for me from the whole experience was I learned a lot. We got down through discussions with yourself and with Mark and the group, we got down to what I should try and focus on, what my problems were in terms of the measures, and what habits should I put in place and actions should I put in place. I've been working on that through the program, through the 3 months, and we've coming to the end of that program. We took results. As we know, data and measures matter, and I'm happy to say that a number of those measures have improved considerably. If I just rattle off a few of them that matter and that have done really well for me, I had a low vitamin D, which we identified, and through actions through the program, which I've learned to do, that's now moving in. I'm just about at normal range, or actually above a sort of like a low range and into a nice healthy normal range for the vitamin D. My ferritins, iron was high, it's now back in range. GGT, the livers, they were looking a bit suspect. They're much better now, back in range. My B12, visceral fat was one that I was looking at, so that was a bit high at the time of my heart attack. I was carrying a little bit around the belly, and I think I was one of those TOFIs as well, though. It was probably fat on the inside, and that's now been significantly reduced as well as obviously just general body weight. And one that I think that we just picked up more recently in our results of the last few days, Ivor, where we were talking about this on the one-on-one sessions, was the albumin. So that was another one that was an indicator that you mentioned, which was out of range early on and now is back in range to normal, as well as just feeling much better. Fitness levels are up, just feeling a lot better. But the data, more importantly, and the measures are showing that marked improvement. And those that are out of range, many of those, as I mentioned, are now back in range, which is a testament to the whole way the program works. It makes you feel, if you like, more knowledgeable, more in control. But we're also, I think I'm testament to it actually showing up in the results.
Excellent, Martin, and fantastic job you've done, and the other guys as well. So yeah, if you don't measure it, it don't get fixed. If you don't measure it, you can't understand it. So the classic engineering problem solving quality control principles, but applied to heart disease prevention. So I mentioned there, yeah, people mightn't be too familiar with microalbuminuria, and it's just indicative of diabetic dysfunction. So I missed that in your first reading, but notice back when you had the problem, you were actually on the very lower threshold or slightly below it. And the other old classic I noted in your case, for the vast majority that resolves, but some rare cases it doesn't, but we won't get into those right now. It's the triglyceride over HDL. So yours was way up in the insulin resistant range, and it's less than half now what it was. And that responded within the first couple of months, I think.
Yes, yeah. And again, I think that's a great indicator, like you've mentioned before, and those ratios are key ones to watch. And I'm very pleased to see that they've been trending in the right direction, back in range. It makes me feel better. but knowing that the actual results say that as well is even more important.
Yeah. And just one other thing that I often have to remind myself to mention. So if people take these actions, which are relatively simple, and you're eating delicious real food, there's no real denial with a healthy low carb diet. That's a myth, that you won't have the things you like. Sure, you won't have all the kind of breads and desserts so much, but there's delicious real food, infinite varieties available. But there's a bit of effort goes in, but the benefits are not just the heart disease prevention, the heart attack, the tragedy prevention. Alzheimer's now is being referred to in some quarters as type 3 diabetes. Many of the solid tumor cancers, the most common cancers, and there's breast cancer, endometrial, and I believe colon, are highly linked to insulin resistance. So there's a broad base lowering of future cancer risk as well, inevitably. So we've got all of these chronic diseases that make up most of the suffering in the world, and they're all addressed by, looking at the data, fixing the data, and reducing insulin resistance. One quick thing though, mental acuity, psychological well-being, that's something I've been seeing over the years as a huge extra bonus, which can have very dramatic impacts on one's quality of life. Now, you were in good shape mentally anyway, but for people who have a little bit of depression, or even people who are really solid, you get this enhanced, kind of mental capability or mental strength. Did that strike you at all over the months?
Speaking for me personally, yeah, I think the whole regime of exercise, better eating, the intermittent fasting, the stress and sleep management, all of that I think contributed to feeling better during the day. Mental acuity, I think one of the ones that was of interest reading your book and also talking with the group, which is one of the great benefits of the We Love Our Heart Pioneer program, is to share that research across the team, was that mental acuity actually improves if you do things like intermittent fasting and the foods that you eat, plus also obviously the exercise. So so those fears of, well, if I don't eat, I'll be distracted or feeling down. That's not the case, because as you know, if your glucose levels, for example, are not going all over the place like a roller coaster, then you're going to be much more on an even keel. The exercise obviously makes you feel better as well, and the stress and sleep management techniques, they all contribute, I think, to a more holistic feeling better. I certainly feel like I said, the measures themselves give you confidence, but the day-to-day feeling is also there as well.
Yeah, quality of life. So Mark, tremendous success, the Pioneer program.
Really cool. Thank you, Martin. Thank you. And what I wanted to say as well, apart from the data, I mean, Martin's mentioned already the holistic approach, and Martin's become a real hero in some of the exercises we nailed down, and within the group there was the kind of friendly competition amongst us all to try and choose an exercise and really boss it. And what was it, we talked about this yesterday, Martin, what was it, you can do a 10-minute what do you call it, wall sit?
Yeah.
10 minutes. It's it. I mean, Ivor, try it. After 2 minutes, I mean, I'm an ex-cyclist. I've got pretty good thighs, but after 2 minutes, it's just burning away. And now Martin has built up to 10 minutes. Although he did say you were a wicket keeper before, so maybe that's where that's come from. But exactly. I mean, part of the whole success has been this sort of group interaction. I mean, we've also, I mean, speaking for myself, but we've looked forward to, the weekly catch-ups, the catch-ups with you, the talks with you, and we have other people on board as well. And that's been really cool, the group dynamic, the group learning. And, we've thrown in some, some curveballs, some esoteric stuff in there as well. We're like, has anyone tried this? Has anyone tried this? Is anyone looking at, other signs on our body that, has anyone heard this, read this article? So it's been a very interesting exchange of ideas, and it's been great for me because I'm with a group of really like-minded people. You know what I mean? It's like once you've had some kind of incident, or once you focused on your heart health, it's a complete level. What do you call it? Levels the playing field completely. You're just like within 2 minutes, you're on eye to eye with each other, and I've had so many calls. And I will just add, Ivor, one of the things that I've learned, because I've had a lot of people sort of communicating with me, emails and whatever, is the general, I won't say ignorance, but the misunderstanding of people's blood tests. Very simple things. I mean, you know, Ivor, and we haven't said this yet, but we don't give medical advice, obviously not, because I'm not a doctor and whatever. But just, you know, trying to, you know, talking to people who are like, well, what are you doing, Mark? Well, you know, we're looking at blood results and we're trying to improve the data. Oh, can't remember the last time I had a blood test. Oh, yeah, I had a blood test. I had a blood test last year. My doctor said everything's fine. Oh, he said, yeah, I should maybe lower my cholesterol and drink a little bit less and maybe lose the 2 kilos. And I'm like, okay, fine, interesting. Have you seen the numbers? What numbers? Well, you know, have you seen the numbers from the blood test? Well, no, he just kept them. I'm like, well, or she. But the very basic you can ask is to see those numbers so we can really, you know, what else has been tested? And, you know, there's just the general lack of understanding that this is, you know, we can't do everything. We can't tackle everything. But one of the things moving forward is we just want to raise the awareness of, like, you know, you told me there's no such thing as a sudden heart attack. Probably there's some signs beforehand if you know where to look. And this is one of the things moving forward is to take people and say, okay, let's have a look together and see if we can see some of those little ticking bombs that I talk about, that, you know, fix it early. Yeah.
Absolutely. In the blood tests, and again, without going into detail, the calcium scan, of course, is a huge facility there, but a little more involved than the simple blood tests. But at the very minimum, you can look at all your markers, as you say, understand them, and you don't have to be an Einstein to understand them. You just need the coaching to give you the basics on how they actually work and what they mean. But I knew, Mark, when we first talked about your concept, We Love Our Heart, and I says, yeah, that is a fascinating concept. And I had an image in my mind immediately, and it was the type 1 grit group on Facebook, the type 1 diabetes parents who have kids with type 1. And of course, type 1s become type 2 and they get highly insulin resistant because they have to inject insulin. So they have often a markedly reduced life expectancy, but not if you go lower insulin. If you go on a low carb, higher protein diet, you need much less insulin. You don't develop the insulin resistance. And guess what? You don't have the shorter life expectancy. So that group has been amazing for data tracking and working together. What both Martin and you, Mark, mentioned, the whole group together on the same playing field. All these parents with type 1 kids, they all resonate so much with each other, and they all share their continuous glucose monitors from their families. Yeah. So it's a similar thing. So I knew about that, and I knew the tremendous success of it. So I said, right, this has a very high likelihood of taking off.
And Ivor, on that, I mean, Martin is our absolute model pupil in terms of keeping his food diary and his spreadsheet. That's one thing. But enhanced, we've done quite a bit of work with, you know, blood sugar sensors just to, you know, monitor that as well. And it's been very interesting to see the troughs and the peaks. And, you know, I think I might have talked before about how it sets off some interesting alarms, you know, in terms of, like, you know, drinking alcohol. I thought I didn't really have a problem with drinking a little bit of alcohol, but during the night, one of the alarms went off because I'd gone hypoglycemic because the alcohol poisons your liver. And that's a big alarm when you realize, oh, that is actually doing something quite negative to my body. Maybe I should really think about that moving forward. And it's all these little things that, you know, help us move forward and make it all pretty, well, healthy for us all, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic stuff, but it's still early days. The second Pioneer group is going to kick off shortly. And
yeah, thanks for that, Ivor. It's planned to kick off in like 10 days' time. And hopefully, Ivor, you're going to put a little link below the video here so that people who want to get in touch with me and talk about what it's about and how to start. I'm more than happy to take the time to talk to people and introduce them to the next program. We've got a couple on board already. The group's taking shape nicely, but yeah, there's still a couple of places. So yeah, open it up.
Yeah, no, an excellent endeavor, and delighted to support it. And it's basically where I came from. You know, the last 18 months, I've been distracted somewhat into other world challenges in the health sphere. People will be aware. But I came from, that whole heart disease prevention, spent 8 years on it. And I think I got a lot of traction around the world with millions of views where I explained all this stuff. And I have had countless emails thanking me from people all over the world. But I love this whole structured, community-based, interactive kind of thing, We Love Our Heart. And all those people who want that community, who want to get engaged, who want to prevent their heart attack and work with others to do so and build new networks. it's just the perfect infrastructure. So I'll put the link down below. We love our heart, and anyone who's interested, you know, connect straight through to Mark there, and I'll be turning up here and there like a hobgoblin at various meetings.
Okay, cool. If I can just, there's an interesting thing that we talked about this briefly yesterday, Ivor. It's weloveourheart.com, by the way. But there's also interesting that many of the measures that we've done actually strengthen the immune system, right? This is, we also, we talked about type 2 diabetes, type 3 diabetes, but a lot of the measures that we put into place to reduce, blood sugars, reduce your HbA1c and all the rest of it, actually increase your vitamin D, actually strengthen your immune system, which in these other, COVID times, so to speak, is no bad thing either, right?
Absolutely, Mark, and I'm glad you said that before we wrapped up. That's a crucial point. So I went through this many years ago with insulin resistance being strongly connected to immune capability being reduced. And we know leptin resistance, leptin is a cytokine, it's a signaler in the immune system. And insulin resistance effectively is leptin resistance. It's the problem we're fixing. So we've seen overwhelmingly with this SARS-CoV-2 problem, diabetes, COPD, which is insulin resistance, heart disease people, insulin resistance, all having vastly higher impacts from this virus. And vitamin D is a case in point. I went out with a podcast last May 2020 showing the studies. Vitamin D status, when it's up in the 40s in nanogram or up in the 110 or more nanomole level, it vanishingly lower rates of serious illness and death. And it's not just because people chug pills. People who get healthy, like Martin, their vitamin D naturally rises, even without pills. It's a marker for metabolic and immune health, because vitamin D is an immunomodulator. And like, as if that isn't enough, like vitamin D insulin resistance resolved would have collapsed the impact of SARS-CoV-2 on the world. But of course, no one was talking about that or allowed to talk about it. But not only that, the people who are now coerced or forced by employers into taking the current experimental medication, which is proving to be very disappointing, not affecting transmission even. So very disappointing so far. But if those people get their vitamin D up and their insulin resistance down, then the low likelihood of side effects and clotting and autoimmune problems that we're seeing published everywhere, you're going to collapse your risk from those side effects by doing the same thing. Lower the insulin resistance, lower the leptin resistance, increase the vitamin D up. It modulates the immune system. It will stop overreaction of the immune system to a great extent. So it's also a solution for those people who are very stressed about being coerced into taking a medication that's of no benefit to them. So there's a tip for people out there who are being forced into this corner. Do the things that Martin's doing and We Love Our Heart are doing, and you'll have a lot less to be concerned about. Yeah.
And I just want to say as well that as well as Martin's results, some of my results over the last 3 months, have been, actually, even my doctor would say, actually, given everything that's happened to me, these are incredible results, and how you do it, whatever. But also just generally, I just feel being in part of the group has really also pushed me forward to, get really back in the groove, so to speak. And there's been a real positive benefit for me as well, for the group, to be there for the group, and moving forward, I feel, much more confident than maybe 3 months ago, actually. So thanks to you both. Thanks to you both so much.
Well, can I also, sorry to interrupt, can I also say thanks to Mark and to Ivor as well, but thanks to Mark for organising and selecting a great bunch of people on the Pioneer program. It's you don't have to come with any sort of pre-existing knowledge. You learn with the group. They're all naturally curious. That's part of the group. They're all interested in improving their heart health and their immunity, and a great bunch of people who all collectively learnt together. Off Mark, off yourself, Ivor, or we went out and found information and shared it with the group. So, thanks to both of you and to the rest of the group. It's been a fantastic experience, and hardly recommend, if someone is curious about improving their heart health and want to do something about it, this is the perfect place to do it.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Martin and Mark, and we'll get this out there. Excuse me. And everyone will have the opportunity to maybe get on board with a growing and incredibly effective, I must say, community. And I'm going to finish now, actually, with just showing you here the sun has come up in
Yeah,
the
you
south of Ireland.
walking the talk there, getting some nice vitamin D.
Oh, well, not too much this time of year, but yeah, I'll get a bit. So great stuff, guys. And we'll
Cool.
circle back in a while and check in on how things are going.
Thanks, Ivor. Super. Always a pleasure.
Great stuff,
Thank you.
guys.
Take
Bye
care,
now.
you too.
Don't forget to subscribe and also to hit that little bell icon to make sure you're informed and get to counter some of the more corporate style science that's out there. So all the links are in the description box below, and also really appreciate all my PayPal and Patreon supporters and anyone else who can continue to support me to provide all the material that I do. It's highly appreciated. So thank you.